Hi everyone, I'm the plant propagator and welcome to my channel. Today I am still in the Midwest US. It's springtime. You can hear, maybe you'll be able to hear the spring birds chirping, flowers are blooming. It's a great time to be here, and it's a great time to be a propagator here. I'm heading back to Southwest Florida tomorrow, and I thought I would squeeze in one more video from here. As I look around, I'm seeing all the plants that are coming. It's just an amazing time, and I'm seeing all the plants come up. I got hosta coming up from seed that I'm pretty excited about. I got a lot of hosta from seed. I got a lot of shade in my yard, so hosta and azaleas, rhododendrons. I have sunny areas of the yard too, and I have different plants growing in that space. But it's just a beautiful time, and now I got to head back to warm and steamy Southwest Florida tomorrow. But what I wanted to do first is talk about propagation of this plant, and this, like I said, is an azalea. And I also want to talk about rhododendrons, because propagation, at least the method that I use, is the same for both of these plants. There are different plants that have different ease of propagation, and this is one of those plants that's kind of tough to propagate. It's a woody plant. It has a woody stem on it, and it's very difficult to get the woody stems to produce roots. So you can go to certain parts of the plant. When you have a woody plant, it's good to get the green areas, the new growth that's coming out. But even with that, woody plants are just tough. It takes a long time. It's hard to do. I've seen YouTube videos on propagation of this plant from azaleas and rhododendrons from cuttings, and it does work. But it's not the method that I like to use. For me, it ends up, in many cases, in failure because it's a woody plant and it's hard to propagate. I've also seen videos that I don't understand where you can shove cut stems into bananas and aloe, and I don't know how, but it roots in those media. What I want to talk to you today about, and I want to show you examples of, is layering. And what layering involves is when you take the bottom branches of a plant like this and actually just kind of bend them down and place them either in the soil or in my case, in the mulch. And then what happens over time is the areas, these branches that have been laid down in the mulch or the soil and have held down in place, over time they'll produce roots. I've seen places, I think, where they say that you can kind of scrape the bark off of the stem on one side. You can apply rooting powder, you can do things like that, but I don't do any of these things. I just lay the stems down in the mulch or the soil, and just put mulch and something heavy you can put on top of it to kind of hold it in place, and then just kind of leave it alone. So the nice thing I like about this procedure, with cuttings, you actually have to cut the plant, and that creates a lot of stress. When you do what's called layering, you just lay this offshoot down, and there's less stress associated with it. It's still attached to the plant, so when you actually do remove it from the parent plant, it helps to cut that plant to ease in the transplant shock. There's another variation of this that's called air layering, which is where you can take a stem like this and make a little cut in it, and then wrap either soil or sphagnum moss around that cut area. And this takes place in the air, and you're layering, you're doing the same type of thing. I should say that I looked up layering online, why it's called layering, and it says that you make layers of propagation, layers of new plants when you do this naturally. But I like to use the word, I lay these stems in the soil and lay the stems down in soil and layering. I like to use that. I don't think that's how it's formally and properly defined, but that's what I like to use. So I like, and this is meant, I should say that when you layer plants, you'll get a few plants. So if you want, for example, off a plant like this, if you want 20 to 50 to 100, new plants, don't use layering don't use the layering approach. You can use this approach if you just want a few. And I've got 2 acres over there, and what happens is I take these plants that are around my house is right here, I take this plant and I put them down in my woods, because again, the rhododendrons and azaleas are shade-loving plants. I can put them down in there. The only problem, and I'll show you this in a second, with them being down there, is that that's where the deer are. So what happens is if I put these plants, just put them in there, the deer will just chomp them. And they actually do that. They get brave and they come up to the house and eat these plants. But those I have to put fences around and to prevent the deer from eating the plants. And even what happens with the fences, when they grow outside of the fences, the deer say, oh, and especially because these plants are evergreen, when in the wintertime, when there's not much green out there, they see the green and they come. Anything that goes outside of the fencing, they eat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the clone of this plant, where I made a successful layering and transplanted the clone of this plant from a layering, not an air layering, from a layering. I transplanted a clone of this plant out into my woods, and I want to show you that plant, and then we're going to come back here. It's going to be cut up a little bit. Then we're going to come back here, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to cut off a layered branch from a rhododendron and then transplant that into the woods in a protected area as well. All right, so again, the idea behind this is to lay a branch down from the parent plant in the mulch over time, and I let this go a full year. I let it go a long time. It's not fast, but that's fine for me and for the number of plants that I want. My understanding is that you can do this after 6 months, but I let these things go in a while. So springtime, when the new growth is coming out, which is right now, cut these off, trim them up a little bit, and then place them in the woods, and that's what I do. All right, so I'm going to show you first the clone plant, and I'm going to show you how I cut a cloned layered plant off of a rhododendron. First plant we're going to look at is an azalea though. So let's go take a look at that cloned azalea from this plant. Remember what it looks like, and we'll take a look at its clone. Okay, and we're back. So if you remember, bees. If you remember what the plant is that we just saw a second ago, this is the clone of that plant. And so the interesting thing is, I don't know if you can tell, but this is caged right here. But this plant is really blooming like crazy. This is the 2 acres behind my house is right back here. But what you may or may not be able to say, well, you can probably see it on the side here, but what came outside of the fencing, which is right here, is all gone. Pileated woodpecker. Cool, they're big, they're cool to see. Anyway, back to this plant. What you have is, again, anything that grew outside at this level was chewed up. Now once it gets up, the fence is only a 5-foot fence, so once it gets up to this level, then it grows over. Actually it grows through it just fine, but then it gets eaten. But anything above this level, it's a little too high for the deer. They can get up, and if they're really hungry, they'll get up and they'll put their paws or hooves on this and then eat this stuff. But anything that's high, they can't get. So this is a plant that's doing really well, that's in wooded area behind my house, that is protected, that's a clone from that plant that was produced by layering from the plant that we just looked at. And it's doing really well. It's it's vigorous. They do get eaten up, but only in the areas that are below as low as they can get to and easily eat. Anyway, anyway, so this works out well for me because I just want to make a few of these plants. Again, I have the space for it, but I don't want to put up, you know, 50 of the fences down in the woods because the deer just love to eat things. I do have hosta down in the woods that's unprotected, and they just eat that down to the ground. So anyway, I want to show you a few more plants. I want to show you some rhododendrons that I have that are right over here. And then I'll show you the rhododendron that I actually layered, and we'll do a few more things so you can see actually what things look like. So let's take a look at the rhododendrons first, the ones that are established clones from the plants on the side of my house, and then we'll cut up and transplant some either 1 or 2 layered rhododendrons that I set up maybe a year ago. Okay, and we're back. So this is a rhododendron. That's that same thing. So it's something that I layered from the plants at the side of my house. It's a nice purple flower. The azaleas are a little bit faster than the rhododendrons, but you can see what happened here. Maybe you can't, but anything, and I can see it really clearly here, anything that kind of worked its way outside of this protective fence is chewed and it's gone. There's new new shoots that are growing out of these things, and as I'm looking at this plant, I do have a few flowers. So I got a flower right here, and this will probably be open in about another month, and then I got a flower back here, but anything on the outside gets chewed up. So anyway, this is a nice rhododendron that is a clone from the plants on the side of my house. And I should mention that the plants if you want things fast, you can't use this method. I've got fairly large rhododendrons on the side of my house and azaleas behind my house, and again, I take my time, I put down a few plants. It really is the easiest approach to do. All right, so what I'm going to do after we taken a look at this, I'm going to set the camera up and show you at the base of this rhododendron plant, and we're going to try to dig up the established rooted layered rhododendron plants that came out from probably branches that I laid down about a year ago. Okay, and we're back. So you can see in the center of the screen here, you can see the rhododendron that was buried underneath the mulch, and I think it's rooted. So what I'm going to try to do is reach in here with a shovel and kind of scrape away the mulch and try to dislodge the roots. I like to take the mulch away just a little bit, but what I'm seeing as I do this is there's a lot of, it may be roots from this layered cutting that are in the mulch. So the first branch goes down, it's right here, and then it goes down into the soil. I hope you can see it right there. And what I'm going to do is just, I think it's coming from this shoot right here. So this is going to be the first one that I'm going to try to dig out, and it looks like it's coming out okay, but what I've got to do is it still is attached to the plant, the parent plant. So what I got to do is cut it off, and we'll cut it off right here just for convenience, and that should pretty much pull it out. So I loosened up the roots a little bit, and I'll try to get behind it. There's a lot going on in the soil. What I have to do, this is a pretty large cutting, so what I'm going to have to do is just pull it out the best that I can, and I can feel it as I cut it, as I pull it out. I can feel the roots give way. Now what you have to do is, with this extra piece coming off, I've got to reach in here and cut this piece off with this snippers, and I think that after I get this off, it'll be a little easier to work with. So this is a pretty large thing to move. It's about a 4 foot piece, and what I'm going to do in order to aid in transplant shock is actually get rid of most of it. When you propagate these plants, really from anything, in order, when you dig up the roots like this, in order to minimize transplant shock, you got to get rid of a lot of the leaves. And this is large, so it's got this, it's got this, it's got this, and what I'm going to do is get rid of most of it, because I need to remove parts of the plant that might be a drain on the small root system that's remaining. And then what I ended up with is a nice small cutting. I hope you can see it right here from this plant. So let's find a home for this guy, put it down in the woods, and I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. Okay, and we're back. So this surprised me how easy it was to dig in the soil and get this plant in. What you can see back here is that I have some, this is an area that was caged. You can see the post right there. And I drug the fence off that you may not be able to see very well. But inside that fence, there's a hosta there, there's another hosta behind it, and another hosta coming up here. And these are protected, and they're doing well because it's got this cage over it. And then what I'm doing is putting this rhododendron right in the middle of it. So I kind of dug it in there. It's a really rocky soil because there's a creek bed right over there. But what I'll do is I'll just go down there. I brought a bucket with me, so I'll go down there. And this is a ravine that's at the bottom of the hill behind my house. So I'll just go back in there and get a few buckets full of this water, and then use the water to water in this plant. I do want to show you the old rhododendron that is over here, and I planted this about 5 years ago, and it seems to be doing pretty well. As we get closer, you can see that the base of the plant looks okay as we go up the plant. And what happens, and if we take a look at it, every place that, we'll zoom in here, every place where the plant has come out of the confines of the cage, it's chewed off. And then even some places where it's close, they kind of reach in, and if the leaves are sticking out, they grab them and they pull them off. So it does look a little nicer, this plant, at the top. I don't even think there's any flowers that are coming out on this plant, but you know, it's alive as opposed to any of the plants that would be out here. And we can take a look out here, and the remaining plants are going to be a little bit more resistant to the deer, as you might imagine. It really is a great time in springtime. Here is a wild rose that's doing pretty well. If we look off here, yeah, there's some mayapple off in the distance, and there's just lots of plants because it is a nice spring day. At the edge of the ravine here, next to the creek, you can see American Beauty, another wildflower. There's lots of flowers out here, and I really don't know the names of a lot of them. I used to. I just don't know them anymore. But the main thing is to show you what this old layered rhododendron looks like, and I wanted to again share with you the details on how I layer just a small amount of these rhododendrons from the plants next to my house and place them out in my growing space. That's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you did and you want to keep on seeing them, it would help me out if you can click on like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. All right, that's all I have for today. Again, I hope you enjoyed it, and happy propagating.